Welcome everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Chuck King. I am the Blackstone HOA president and also the president of Citizens Support of Dorado Hills, a group that was formed specifically to destroy Project Frontier. I'm going to introduce some people real quick and then we will move on. Important people you need to know tonight. Tom Fox, Vice President.
Hey.
Steve Simmons, our CFO. Matt Telefero, if you've read anything, he's also Secretary of Citizen Support. Christy Telefero is she's our money director. She hasn't broken any thumbs yet, but she wants to. Krista Perrin, her and her husband Rick are in charge of the ground game. They get people out and sign petitions, pass out flyers, all that stuff. Rick's over there in the corner. Ellen Panley is our treasurer. Melissa Quaid, stand up. Facebook. That's her. And where's Cheryl here?
Cheryl?
Cheryl. Oh, Cheryl.
Okay, that's my wife. She's not here, but she's running the demonstrations up at rallying people to protest up at the Point Soups.
She brought the wine key. What?
And she brought the wine key. So for that, a big old applause.
She runs the meeting presence, so she's the one that sends the emails out, says, hey, we got a meeting this day, this day, this day, who can go? She organizes those.
The signs, and she sends out talking points, etc.
Okay, so from there, and also Bob Williams from Heritage is here. Bob has been your name is somewhere in my brain.
Roger Haig.
Roger Haig, I want to say Randy. From Heritage as well.
We have about 10 people from Heritage that just raise their hands and say hi.
Yep, who's here from Heritage? First message, we need you. We need you. Thank you for coming. Upstairs, and before we get too far, Marcus Worthington, if you've looked at social media, you have seen that man all over it. He is an animal.
Yes.
He is also recording this meeting tonight, videotaping it so that we can put it on YouTube after edits. So I want everybody to know it's there. If anybody objects, raise your hand now. Or don't come up here front. He's only filming what's going on right up here, okay? We will have questions and answers at the end, so please let us get through the PowerPoint. Save your questions for the end, write them down, and we will answer every last one of them if we got to stay here until, whatever. It's up to you guys, all right? All right, so we're going to go through a PowerPoint real quick. We're going to tell you what's been going on. Did I miss anybody? Good? All right.
We want to make sure we get everybody.
I don't want to miss anybody. All right, so anyway, through the introductions. Okay, so this all began in 2017 is where we know it began. And we know that off of Dorado County documents. And in those documents was a letter signed by Tiffany Schmidt that basically said, hey, Amazon, come to us. We have 8 million square feet available for you out on Latrobe Road. And we'll give you all kinds of incentives if you'll come build a site here. So that was where we first came across it. November of 21, Dermody Properties, which is representative for Amazon, they're a developer for Amazon. They went into a non-disclosure agreement with Dorado County, and the premise was that they were looking for properties. April of 22, they submitted a design application, and shortly thereafter that design application was considered incomplete, and the county requested they submit a conditional use permit instead.
So let me just say that all of this was unbeknownst to you and to me, to any of us. Nobody knew anything that was going on. Tiffany Schmidt sent this out and also later had the Board of Supervisors enter into a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that whoever they were soliciting out there to come here, no one could know about it. So to this day, we do not absolutely know for sure that it's Amazon. We think it is. We're pretty sure it is because of the nature of the development, the footprint, and the kind of operation and the size. We pretty much are positive that it's Amazon. The big thing that we need to know is that the county, and I'm going to probably hit this theme too many times, and you can tell me to stop later on. The county is not our friend in this. The county is working against the people here. We live here, this is our corridor, this is where we call home, we purchased, we invested, this is our county, and what they're trying to do is bring in a huge distribution center. It's not even a warehouse, it's a redistribution center with 1,200 trucks a day, 5,000 total cars, including cars and semis. And we'll get into all those impacts a little bit later, but what that will do, what Amazon will do, is destroy the lifestyle that we know that we have right now. And this is why we're fighting so hard.
Okay, go ahead, slide one. So, in February of 23, there is a document called a TAG Advisory Committee, and it's a document between them and Germany. And in that document, the following was determined. Space. It's the same thing. Yeah, this is space.
As Chuck is looking for that, let me just say that on the Technical Advisory Committee, we requested to be part of that. They said you're not invited. I wrote a letter to the Planning Commission, to the Planning Director, and to the Senior Planner involved with that, and said that we have valuable input. We have lots of engineers, former architects, attorneys, everything over here. We have input that's valuable. We have experts. They said, sorry, we don't want to hear your input.
Okay, so according to the information provided, this is a fulfillment center. You need to know what that is. There's not going to be any blue vans rolling out of the facility. Not now, not tomorrow, never. What this is a place where they're going to get product from an airport. It's going to be put in a semi-truck. It's going to be driven over here to this warehouse where it's going to be sorted, boxed, and redistributed out to other warehouses via semi-truck, leaving here, going to another place, where it will then be broken down, put in little blue vans, and delivered to people. So you're not going to get your packages faster, and that's something everyone says, oh, good, I get my packages faster. No, not with this one. We're the ones paying the price for all that stuff on this one. So the picture above me is a picture of their rendering of what this will look like. So the road you see up in the top right corner is Royal Oaks. The road you see intersecting into Royal Oaks is Latrobe Road. And if you look just above Latrobe Road and Royal Oaks, you'll see what looks to be a string of houses. That's Avante Boulevard, Avante Drive. And a lot of the people that you hear screaming and yelling are those people who live on Avante Drive, even more than the rest, because they are just, perilously close to the diesel particulate matter that's going to be coming out of these things. But looking at this drawing, you'll see that it's two large buildings, and you see a whole lot of parking. So that is a picture of that property, and those are the Avante homes you see there in the foreground. And you see the creek, or the little bit of a gully there. They're talking about building this just to the left as you're looking at it of that, and it'll go all the way over to that hill. Okay, so this thing is just going to be humongous.
207 acres.
Can everybody, I'm going to see where my cursor is right there?
Yes.
On the screen. So that little tree right there, to give everybody a perspective, this building number 2 right here, this back corner is where that tree is. And that tree represents the finished floor, so it's going to go up from there, and it's going to run across the hill this way. And the length of that building is about 1/3 of a mile, just to put that into context. So 19 football fields.
So there was one just built 4.1 million square feet in Ontario, and that one is larger than the footprint of Disneyland. This one is 4.8 million, so that tells you how big it is.
Another statistic that my wife looked up was that 4.8 million feet is a lot. The Pentagon, the largest office building in the entire world, is 6.5 million square feet. This is 4/5 almost the size of the Pentagon. That should give you some perspective about how huge this is.
Okay, so more information on that proposal document. Building number 1 will have 57 semi-truck loading docks, 417 semi-truck trailer parking stalls. We are to widen Latrobe Road for them. 1,750 employee parking stalls. And also note, there are an additional 9 buildings besides those you see on the rendering that you've seen. And those would be for like plant operations and things like that. Building number 2, 98 trailer loading docks, 475 semi-truck parking stalls, and another 1,160 employee parking spots. Totals equal 155 loading docks, 892 semi-truck parking stalls, 2,910 employee parking stalls, and once again, you get to pay to widen the road so they can do that. Okay, so what they've told us, and most of this information come from the APAC meeting and other information since. 1,250 semi-trucks a day down Latrobe Road, whether it be going in or coming out. That calculates for 1 every minute, 10 seconds, 24/7, 365, every day of the year. 100% of the trucks will travel northbound on Latrobe Road. 85% will travel westbound into Sacramento, and the rest will be going, I don't know, Highway 50 maybe, which seems kind of stupid to me, but is what it is. Rumors persist that this will stay with the zoning administrator. So basically what the way this works is the zoning director at this point has control of this proposal. She can, and Karen Gardner is her name, she can control whether this is, the conditional use permit is approved by a zoning administrator or if it goes to the planning commission. Their policy says that if the proposal is a basic proposal would go to a zoning administrator, but if it's complex in nature, then it should go to the planning commission, which is a group of 5 planning commissioners. And as we're being told through back channels right now, that it probably is still going to a zoning administrator. So our message right now is this can't go to a zoning administrator, it has to go to the planning commission.
So I'll just add to that, one of the things that we don't know is why Karen Garner is allowing this to be heard and determined by the zoning administrator. And the reason is it's county code. It's their code that says inconsequential smaller projects. You have you're building a small office building, you want to go 22 feet instead of 20. That kind of a small thing, no problem. The zoning administrator can handle that. When you're talking about a complex project, and this is probably the most complex project the county has ever seen, it needs to go to the planning commission. Why? Because they already have 6 people representing 6 supervisors, representing everybody in the county, and that's where we get a fair, open, wide hearing. That's where people get to question. That's where people can get up and say, what about this and what about that? When it's going to the zoning administrator, that's basically 1 to 2 people, is our understanding. They get to say, it's over, we've passed it. Then at that point, the only thing we can do is appeal.
Okay, so who are the players in the game? First of all, Karen Gardner is a planning director. Bree Mobius is, she was the deputy county counsel. She left about a year ago, went to Hefner Law, and is now assigned to the Project Frontier. So, seems a little weird to me. Karen Gardner came to us from the Bay Area where she successfully implanted a Amazon there before she left. You got John Heidel, Wendy Thomas, and Lori Parlin. So those 3 names are on there because they refuse to talk to us about it. We've sent emails to each of them, Tom and I have, and so far we've had meetings with George Turnbow and Brooke Lane. Brooke Lane is from South Lake Tahoe area. George is our supervisor here at Blackstone and Heritage. Lori Parlin has not even bothered to respond to the emails or phone calls that we've sent. So we know she just doesn't care. And Whitney Thomas, we know is 100% for the project, so we haven't expected to hear it, and we have not heard. John Heidel, on the other hand, I will give him credit in that he initially told us that he would not meet with us. I sent him a second message and said, and he told us to meet with our district supervisor. And I emailed him back and said, we have, but you need to understand we also represent District 1 in that we have this association called Citizens Support of El Dorado Hills, not south of 50. Once he got that email, he sent back a response that said after he got the FAQ sheet that he would then meet with us. And to his credit, he did email me today and said he would meet with us to talk about this, and we do have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday for Tom and I to go meet with him. So we'll see where that goes.
But I do have to add that in February, I was at an APAC meeting, and this topic did come up, and John Heidel was sitting 3 or 4 seats away from me. And I asked him, what can we do to stop this project? And his words to me were, quote, there's nothing we can do. They have a right to build. It's already done. There's nothing that we can do. Now, you can be your own judge. Does that sound like somebody who's willing to fight to stop the project, somebody who's willing to get more information, somebody who's concerned about the impacts? I didn't think so. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, but we'll be meeting with him Wednesday? Wednesday.
So in that 2017 document, we talked about where they offered incentives to Amazon if they were to come to El Dorado Hills. We found that through Marcus, thank you Marcus, that there is a government code section, I believe someone else was involved in this too, but there's a couple of bills that were introduced when one was passed into law in 2020 that basically states that if you, as a local government, offer incentives, that you cannot sign a non-disclosure agreement. So the fact that they signed that non-disclosure agreement after knowing that they had offered those incentives could be a problem for them according to Government Code Section 83.111H.
And they did so after that became law.
So they offered so we're clear, they offered the incentives before it became law, but they offered, or they signed the non-disclosure after it became law. So we're still talking to Rob Bonta about that one. So how does this affect you? In totality, we're looking at 5,000 vehicles a day down Latrobe Road with the exhaust that comes with it and the road wear and just the additional traffic and congestion. Diesel particulate matter, I don't know if you guys know about that, but if you don't, you need to. It is extremely dangerous toxin. It's a carcinogen, and from what I read today from, I think, Kathy, it's been deemed by the World Health Organization to be more carcinogenic than, what was that? You remember read that? Yeah, crap. I hate being 60.
But let me just add to that.
Oh, secondhand cigarette smoke.
Okay. And adding to that, we're not saying that, it's not Chuck or myself or our organization saying that DPMs are bad, as he's pointing out. There's no less than 10 or 15 government reports. OSHA will tell you the same thing. They will tell you that being within a mile of constant diesel traffic is a problem. It's a health hazard. It's bad for people with asthma. DPMs, diesel particulate matter, resides into your lungs. It's not something that you can cough out. And as Chuck mentioned, it's a known carcinogenic. So it's bad enough if you live by a freeway with an occasional truck coming by. This would be one diesel truck coming by our homes every minute, every day, 24/7, 365 days a year.
And it wouldn't be as bad if they were just driving through, like down the freeway, but with all the signal lights, they're going to be starting and stopping, and that's going to be a whole lot more DPMs than just driving through. The environmental damage of having the non-permeable surface that you see on that rendering will send grease, diesel, oil, rubber, all kinds of crap into Carson Creek. Obviously the traffic, there's going to be light pollution. Blackstone, I'm not sure about the other HOAs around here, but we are a dark sky community. You will not see streetlights here. We don't have them. And to have that thing blasting is just going to pretty much destroy our dark sky community. Mechanized noise, and that they're going to have all kinds of machines working inside.
Forklifts.
And it will muzzle development. Talk briefly about that. The level of service right now for this area is B, C, and D. So A is great, nobody's on the road, go where you want to go. F is you're not moving, I feel like I live in LA, you can't change lanes. Okay, so they're telling us, based on what they have done, that we will go to level E with this development. When it gets to level F, the development of the county is done. The general plan says if you get to level F, you don't get a build anymore. So that will take up a lot of bandwidth, having Amazon here, that would have allowed us to grow in ways we'd want to grow.
So this is something that we're hoping developers will understand, well, they will understand, of course, but something that they will respond to. You have traffic levels of A through F, as Chuck mentioned, B, C, and D is currently what we enjoy. You get to level D, it's not really that great, but the county standard is E. So the only thing Amazon has to do is they have to mitigate levels to level E. That's all they have to do. Level E is going to be horrible, but that's all that they have to do. But again, if they get to level E, any other development coming in here, future capacity to be able to build other developments, other companies coming in here, that's going to absorb all that capacity. So when the county says, you're going to generate this amount of traffic impact and you have to mitigate it, those companies trying to come in will not be able to mitigate it because there's nowhere else that they can go. So that's, for the future, that basically can kill a lot of development in El Dorado County.
So continuing on, home prices without a doubt will take a hit for a while. I'm hopeful that if this happens, they will come back up, and I'm sure they probably will, but not at the rate that they are right now. These jobs will not be minimum wage jobs per se, but they'll be somewhere in that $20 to $25 an hour range, which will bring with it a lot of Sacramento kids, young people, people that can live on that type of a wage. There won't be very many people in El Dorado Hills that will be getting those jobs, or people that will be moving here that will be able to live up here. Go ahead.
Let me, one other comment on that. If you look online about Amazon and labor, Amazon is constantly in fights with labor. It's horrible working conditions, horrible pay, they work in long hours, people do not stay very long. It's basically not the kind of job that most people are going to want. There's been talk around the county that we've heard, even in the Board of Supervisors room, that this is going to provide a lot of jobs for people up here in El Dorado Hills. There's no guarantee of that. You can't build a business and say that, oh yeah, all those people are only going to work here. People are going to apply from San Joaquin, from Amador, from Sacramento County. There's nothing you can do to stop that. So is it jobs producing for El Dorado County? It could be. Are they jobs that people want? Not necessarily. They say Folsom Ranch is going to be a feeder group. Really? People over there buying $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes are going to come work for, what, minimum wage? I don't think so.
Okay, so things they've failed to complete so far. They're using an environmental impact report from 1982. I graduated from high school in '79. Their traffic report was done in May of 2020. Anybody know what we were doing in May of 2020? Nothing. We were locked down for COVID. So how they can get an accurate traffic evaluation, we have no idea. They've said that correct me if I'm wrong, they've said that the noise study, the vegetation study, light study, vibration study are all good to go. That these things are not a concern because of the research and development zoning that they're going to give this thing. And the 50-foot height limit of a building over a business park. This thing on the front building will be 103 feet, 110 feet, somewhere in the neighborhood. So to be able to build that, they need that conditional use permit, and that is, as we're hearing, the only thing they're waiting on before they start building this project. I'm going to let Tom talk about tax revenues. Watch him go.
Let me speak just a little bit to the zoning and process first. Because the county's assumption is that they have a right to build, that they are zoned correctly, they can come in, they meet all the requirements, all they have to do is get a conditional use permit. Sorry, thank you. That's not exactly true. For number one, the zoning down there is R&D. If you look at the descriptions online, this is a heavy industrial use. Why? Not the sorting, not the warehouse element, but you have to look at the entire complex in its entirety. You have to look at the traffic element. Because of the diesel trucks, because of the noise, the type of operation, it is not R&D. It's nowhere close to R&D. It fits the description of industrial heavy. Now they say that if you look at all three descriptions, they all allow warehousing. That's true. But you have to understand you have to be in the correct zone first before you can apply those standards. So example, if you come in here, you're an R&D company, you're producing whatever, and you have 5 or 6, 10, 15, 20 semi-trailers coming out each and every week, but you're basically R&D, you can have a warehouse. There's nothing wrong with that. But they don't fit that. So they fit industrial heavy. Industrial heavy also allows you to have those types of, that kind of use, and that's appropriate. But they have to meet R&D first, and they don't do that. So to say this a different way, you have to meet the first test before you can get to the second test. And the first test is that it has to be R&D, and frankly, it's not. The second thing is that they think a zoning commission can just go ahead and approve this, and that no environmental impact report is required. Well, what they're doing is they're changing, it's a non-conforming use is what I'm trying to say. If you try to do this, and the fact that they're trying to get a building built which is above the 50-foot height limit, that means it's a non-conforming use. What does that mean? That means it triggers CEQA. That means you need to do an environmental impact report. They're claiming they don't need to do one. They're claiming what they're probably, we thought they would do a negative declaration, but our understanding is right now, they would probably say that they are categorically exempt. And categorically, I'll tell you that that's not correct. So that's just a little bit on zoning. Chuck will get into this in a moment, but we don't know. We do not know why Karen Garner is not sending this up to the Planning Commission. In a way, it doesn't matter. In a way, it's curious. We don't know why. But she came from Gilroy, and she put in an Amazon facility there, and I think maybe that's her intention. Again, I don't really know. Regarding the financial impacts, I put a brief analysis on Nextdoor that many of you have read. I've gotten a lot of comments from it. We got a report from Moody, which is the developer for Amazon, and it's a 50-page report. I can't remember which. It's got a lot of charts in it. It's very confusing, and I think that's intentional. But what it comes down to is they plant a couple of different scenarios. And let me step back and say that when they presented to APAC back in March, what they said is, you can realize up to $23 million in revenue. That's lovely. That's really great. What they didn't say, really, is that revenue is divided between the state and the county. And in the county, it doesn't all go to the general fund. It goes to all sorts of different agencies, LAFCO, all the different agencies that are in the county. So the county gets only a proportion of that. So 7.25% sales tax. They say, wow, that's a lot of sales tax. Great. The state takes 6% of that. We only in the county only get 1.5%. And again, not all of that 1.5% goes to the general fund. It doesn't work that way. You say, well, just 1.5% off of all those sales, isn't that going to be a lot? Well, not really. Because they presented two economic scenarios. One is wholesale, one is retail. And as we all know, that sales tax, comes off of retail. This is a wholesale process, which means there is, I won't say none, but there's almost no tax revenue coming off of a wholesale operation. So how much are we going to get? The estimates, believe it or not, I put in my post and on Facebook, I think it could be as high as $5 million. And I think a lot of people said I'm being too generous, and the low estimate that's even in that report is $35,000 a year. So I don't even want to say that that's true, because that seems so low, it's almost inconceivable. But let's say it's $5 million. You're looking at millions and millions and millions of dollars in infrastructure improvements. You're also looking at the effects on property value. Those property value depreciations have an impact on the amount of taxes that you pay. That's a decrease in tax revenue going to the general fund. So you would say, well, these were a lot of professionals, and they put together the report. Should we trust them? No. The report came from the developers. They wrote the report. Do you think they might have an interest? They might have a bias. They do. So what has the county done? The county up to this point has done no economic analysis. Now, all of a sudden, they've seen the light. They've seen the light, and now apparently they're doing an economic analysis. Why? Because they just learned this information like we did. So that's, in short, really, that's a summary of what's going on tax-wise. Sure.
So, talking about this, I had an opportunity to talk to Joe Harn, who is the county controller, and his opinion is, yes, this is between 1 and 1.5% for us, and that's going to be, as Tom said, split amongst many things, including the fire department and such, before it gets to the general fund. So those numbers are real numbers that we're estimating. We knew from the beginning at the APAC meeting in March that when their number was somewhere between 10 and 23 million, that there was something stinking already.
So this is under the assumption that we actually get all of the tax dollars. Because if you go back to the 2017 letter where they're talking about incentives, California law allows local agencies, cities and counties, to give a kickback to the developer, a kickback to the business. So they can give maybe half of the tax or a third of the tax or some number as an incentive for the business. So that number just goes, if they do that and they don't collect all of the tax money that's allowed them, then that number goes down even further.
So where are we now? Citizens in support of El Dorado Hills started an unincorporated association because we did not have time to incorporate. Incorporating takes time. 501c3 takes time. We don't have 3 to 6 months. We had to get this going now. So the best way for us to do it, to get moving, was the unincorporated association. Are we incorporating? Yes, we are. Are we going 501c3? Yes, we are. But it takes time. But from there, we got an email address, and we have recently got a website up. We're giving as much information out as we can. We've got some awesome people that are helping us from unbelievable places that we just don't even see it coming, and poof, here's some more help. But we're getting ready to start with flyers, passing those out. We've sent out one round of postcards already, and we've got a couple of printers that have donated to us, so we should have probably in the neighborhood of, I'm going to guess, 15,000 pieces of document that we can send out, either mail or hand to somebody or put on their door. We've got groups here, people that I've already introduced you to, that are organizing petition signings, going door to door, and we need to get going with static sites, but we have not yet. We've got a donation coordinator. We've got people that are doing just social media. Melissa's doing Facebook, and Christine Walton, who, doggone it, she's just slaving away in Australia, I think, right now. But she's running our social media accounts, and where that takes us is we do have legal representation. We'll talk about that quickly when I get through this. But we're doing everything we can to strengthen our group, and that's the reason why we have you guys here, because we need more help. We need more associations. We want to not just beat this through Blackstone, but we want Heritage and Four Seasons and Stonebriar and Serrano and all of El Dorado Hills to come together on this. And once we have that voice, we want to keep that voice. And that's what we're after, because when this project is done, it's going to be something else if we allow the government to keep doing what they're doing. So that's where our goal is. So
this is, I'm just going to glom out of it. This This is not a one fight. This is not just one little effort. We have a county, to be perfectly frank in my own opinion, we have a county to save. El Dorado Hills is not represented. El Dorado Hills creates a lot of the revenue, a lot of tax revenue that goes to the county, but it doesn't get spent down here. El Dorado Hills, the county, I should say, has an obligation for a certain amount of low-income housing. Almost all of those low-income housing developments are going to be down in this area. There's nothing wrong with low-income housing, but why is it all right down here? El Dorado Hills is not represented, and what we need to do is we need to make sure that we secure the lifestyle that we already have. If we don't, it's going to start to go downhill. So after this is over, this will not be the last project. If we defeat this in a matter of days, if not weeks, you know the county's going to be here with another project, and it could be worse, it could be better, I don't know, but it's not going to stop. We need to do something. We don't know what that fight's going to look like, but we need to do something to preserve this area, to preserve El Dorado Hills, to make sure that no one's against growth. We want smart growth, not stupid growth. We don't expect that everything's going to remain completely rural, but we have a character to this county, and we need to maintain it.
So what he's saying is bring your growth, but we get a say in what it is and how we're growing.
Exactly.
So you know, Tom and I are while we're on the board, we're also, it's our mission to reach out and touch every county employee that we possibly can. We're meeting planning commissioners, we're meeting the supervisors, whoever we can talk to, we're talking to, we're coming up with meetings, trying to get in everybody's face so that they know who we are, they know how we handle business. We do it respectfully, courteously, but we get the message across. And if we treat them fairly, they'll treat us fairly. It's the hope in the long run. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that that's true. A lot of people might get up and shout. That's not our style. That's not what we tell people to do. Communication has to be respectful. That's it. It has to be respectful, but we're going to get our point across. And if we have to take this further, if they approve it and we have to take it forward, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. If we have to litigate, maybe we'll have to litigate. We don't know what the future's going to be, but we know that this fight is not over, even if they say that they will cancel this project tomorrow. This fight's not over.
All right, so last but not least, well, one more slide to go up this one. Anyway, how do we get to where we are with our attorneys? So Matt, being the man he is, did some super sleuthing and was able to come up with a cell phone number for one of the lead attorneys for Sierra Club. Being the man he is, cold called him and said, can I have a few minutes of your time? The guy was so impressed with him that he gave him as much time as he needed. So by the end of that conversation, he was going to the other attorneys and they were trying to figure out if they wanted to be co-plaintiffs. They have expressed to us that they would like to be co-plaintiffs in this case, and to date we haven't taken them up on it, but they are there helping us, providing us guidance as we need. But one of the things they did is, we told them we need a good CEQA attorney, so they sent us to a company or a firm in San Francisco. Matt had a long conversation with them, and they said, yes, we want that case to the point to where we'll give you a discount on our rate. But we have to check our records and deconflict. Sadly, they checked their records and found they had done some work for El Dorado County on the general plan, so they had to step aside. But doing so, they referred us to a partner who had stepped away to start his own firm, and that gentleman had a long talk with Matt as well, and that gentleman said, after doing a little bit of study, yes, I want this case, we can win this case, and I want it bad enough that I'm going to drop my rate from $850 an hour to $325. So that tells you what our CEQA attorney thinks of this process and where we're at. So we have paid retainer with him. He is working on this case currently, and the idea is to be ready at the first drop of a hat when they actually continue their process and they actually file some process that we argue with, that we're ready to step up and throw some paper down.
The other indication that we have also is that we may have Teamsters on board as well.
Yeah, Teamsters has went to our CEQA attorney and has offered their assistance in any way possible as well, mainly because they don't like Amazon. And they want Amazon to run Teamsters, and Amazon refuses, so they're doing whatever they can to make life rough for Amazon. But from there, we needed a process lawyer. Bob Williams stepped in and told us about a local attorney who has knowledge of the general plan and knows where the bodies are buried in El Dorado County. We had about a 2-hour meeting with him, and by the end of that meeting, we all looked at ourselves and we said, you know what, that's the man. That's the guy that completes the circle, because he can educate the CEQA attorney as to the local politics, because El Dorado County is a little different than most counties. And by the time we were done there, he also discounted his rate because he's so confident he can win on process law as it is.
And while we're speaking about allegiances, also I just want to mention that just yesterday or today, Bob mentioned to me that APAC, the Area Planning Advisory Committee, thank you, the Area Planning Advisory Committee, they are all on board with us as well. They weren't before. They had to investigate it. They also issued a final draft of a traffic report, and it's pretty damaging for the county, but they're on board as well.
The things that have been canceled so far is a result of the pressure we put on them. The zoning administrator was scheduled to rule on the conditional use permit Thursday or Wednesday. That's been canceled. Was canceled last week. And also the planning commission was to Department of Transportation recommended they place Latrobe Road back on the capital improvement plan, and that was taken off the agenda the day before that meeting as well. We
protested that one loudly. They were going to already talk about putting the cart before the horse. They were going to approve widening of Latrobe before the project was even approved. So that was a little backward. We protested that. That's not happening now.
And so one thing we need to talk about real quick on that is I want you to know what they're doing with your money. Every person that's purchased a house, Blackstone, Heritage, Four Seasons, I'm not sure about Stonebriar, but Bass Lake Road, I believe some in Green Valley as well, but you're paying into what's called TIM fees. Those TIM fees, it's about $20,000 a house, are used to create
traffic impact mitigation.
There you go, traffic impact mitigation fees. That $20,000 you paid when you bought that house is to improve the roadways and the environment around the roadways for you that you use every day. They wanted to add this project, so this project was taken off of, Latrobe was taken off of the capital improvement plan, I believe it was 2016. Reason was because it was deemed that it would not be needed for the long-term future. So then 6 months later, they start negotiating with Amazon to come here, allegedly. And now they want to put it back on the capital improvement plan. So George Steed, I believe, wrote the letter asking them to put it aside, and it was pretty eloquent in his letter, and also a lot of pressure from other people as well, and it was removed. But those TIM fees, to be used to improve your roads you use every day, they were going to put that in front of Bass Lake Road, 4-lane improvements, Green Valley Road and Silver Valley Parkway were all going to get pushed aside, and the money was going to get spent on Latrobe up until the 13th of this month.
And what's important about that is to distinguish what a TIM fee is. It's a fee, not a tax. So a tax can be spent any way that the county wants to spend it. A fee, you have to get a benefit from a fee. So if there's a fee, it's for like widening this road. If you're doing Blackstone Parkway, do people up in Bass Road pay for it? No, we pay for it because we benefit. So what they were basically doing, what Chuck is saying, they're doing an end run and saying, we're going to take all your fees that everybody else has paid, and we're going to use that money down here. So that didn't work.
All right, last slide, I promise. What can you do? Spread the word. That's the thing we need the most. That's why we have you guys here. We need everybody to know, and we need people to get involved. We have sign-ups up here for going door to door. We need people to sit in front of businesses. Volunteer to go to the meetings. We have people at every meeting It may not be full, but we're there, and we get 3 minutes in the open forum, and a lot of us are using those 3 minutes. Some people, like Sue, are calling in, so we need you guys to, if you can, come out and help spread the word that we want them to know. We definitely need donations for our legal fund. We always do. People say, how much do you want to raise? We have no idea. If we just pay the retainers we've already paid, and that's the end of it, great. But the problem with it is, if this goes to court, we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know if they're going to order them to do the environmental impact report that's going to take you 2 years to do that, and we're going to drag it through court. We don't know if our attorney's going to say, you know what, we need a new traffic study. Our traffic study for Blackstone, which we're considering doing one right now, is $10,000 for Blackstone. So we don't know what that traffic study would cost. But the experts that we may need for each one of these different categories, we could need that money instantly. We just don't know. So for us to say we need $50,000, or us to say we need $100,000, we can't say that, and the last thing we want to do is tell you we need 100 and not ever need it. So we say, at this point, we're saying, donate as you can, what you can, and if we need more, we'll put out the word that we need more, but right now, we're just trying to build a fund so that if we have to do more than the retainers, then we've got it there. Our website is citizens4edh.org, and our email is the same, citizens4edh@gmail. So you can contact us through those. We also have sign-ups up here, and at this point, if you're done, we'll take questions.
Just one thing, a lot of people ask Christy, this is Christy right here. A lot of people ask Christy, how much are people contributing? We've had donations from $25 all the way up to $3,000. So basically what's common is $1,000 to $1,500. That sounds like a lot, but we're talking about saving our homes. So again, whatever people can contribute, that's fine, but I just want to let people know what that amount was. The other
One more thing about the pledge sheets. If you're unsure right now, if you have other questions that you're not comfortable, saying in front of everybody, please just take a pledge sheet. My information's on the bottom. The email address for our organization's on the bottom. If your question will get to the right person to answer your question. You can also just take that, sit on it, talk to your family about it. There's also a box on the bottom that says, I would like to discuss my donation. I would like to donate at some point, but I'd like to discuss it. Leave your phone number. I will give you a call personally, and we can talk about it. If I don't have the answer to something, I will pass you on to somebody that does. So please take one of those sheets, even if you have no intention of donating tonight or this week. Please just take one of those so we can address you.
And on another note to that, people saying, do you have any kind of a way to do money online? Right now we don't. We're looking at Venmo, GoFundMe, a lot of other things. But as Chuck mentioned, our website just went up a few days ago. These things do take a little bit of time. We will have an online way shortly for people to be able to donate.
It's cash and check at this point.
Yeah, cash and check. Right.
All right, so Steve has the microphone back behind you guys. They're standing right in front of you there, Steve.
Speaking of donations, I just had a question. Since it's not a 401 at this time, obviously they would be tax deductible, which regardless. Or 503. But my question would be, how, since you said you don't know what the funding is there going to eventually be, beautiful website by the way, is there going to be links in there for us to see the money in and expenditure so that we know what's going on? And then of course we could obviously see for ourselves as well, as the expenses are going out, maybe, oh, this is a good time for me to add more or help or hear what's going on. But how do we know how our money is being utilized, since it's not going to be a charity, it's not a public way for us to understand? That's all I want to know.
Let me answer that a couple of ways. Number one, do we want to put people's information, what they're contributing online? Yeah, that we can do. Do we want to let you know that we need money? I think we'll get that word out. A lot of this is that we don't want to give away strategy. That's why we're not telling people who the law firms are that we're using right now.
I just think the money, like, how do we know how much is in and how it's being spent?
What I've been telling people is it?
It's, right now, the money that we're spending right now, and is pretty much 99% of it is going to legal right now. It's going to attorneys. That's about it. We've got some ancillary, printing expenses, signs here and there, that sort of thing.
I know we brought in the legal staff and everything, but have we talked to Fish and Game or Department of Water Resources about the wetland situation? They would probably like to know what's going on there.
Okay, Matt?
Yeah, I've spoke to the Army Corps of Engineers, I've spoken to CDFW. I have calls into water quality. The bottom line is a lot of these agencies are reactionary. What that means is until there's a violation, they don't do anything about it. So they know that the project's there. I talked to CDFW and they said, well, we're waiting for the county, the lead agency, to make their decision on CEQA, and then after that, we might condition the project when it goes to construction about what they have to do to make sure that the preserve is protected. But in terms of, oh, you can't do that, we're going to get involved, they're not going to do that.
Okay. My last question is, who's up for re-election in November?
Nobody.
Nobody in the Board of
No.
Supervisors?
So you need to know who you have here. You have George Turnbu in District 2, which is where you're at right now. Basically, the other side of the freeway is John Heidel. He's termed out in 2024, so he will not be coming back. So you will get a new supervisor in District 1. And yes, we will be paying close attention and trying to help out the right person, whoever that may be.
And George will be up for re-election in 2024 as well.
Okay. Thanks, you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
The heritage, we had a new subdivision that Lennar's putting in that would look basically right on those parking lots. Has Heritage got, or Lennar got a position on this, or have they been involved at all?
Not that we know of. You're kind of reading my mind because I've been thinking the last couple of days that I need to contact somebody at Lennar. I don't know if Chuck has had
Tom, I
any
can answer that question.
contact with them or not.
We have been in contact, we have a board member from Heritage who says, that is a Lennar representative still. He's been informed, his boss has been informed, his bosses have been informed, and the president, original president of Lennar. They're all aware, none of them are in a position to make comment yet.
So they may not be making a comment about it, but what they do know is that that has to be part of their disclosures. If anyone is unclear about that, any realtor selling any property in Heritage, Blackstone, Four Seasons, anywhere around here has to make that disclosure. It's a violation of state law if they don't.
Can I just dovetail on that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
I'm with Coldwell Banker, and in our meeting this past week, my manager told all of us agents that if we are selling or representing a buyer who's buying a home in Blackstone or Heritage, we are now required to disclose the potential that this project has on our homes. So just so you know, it is already affecting us and our home values.
I do have a question on the petitions. Somebody came to my door, I signed one, I grabbed copies, and I'm going around to friends asking them. I signed one online. So many people are confused about all the petitions floating around there, when they're going to be turned in, and all that. And the second part of the question is PR. Have you guys been working with local news stations, Mountain Democrat? Is there an event coming up that we can get the word out? And signage. I love that sign, I love my sticker, and I'd like to know how to get some.
See, I have a limit of 2 questions at once because I'm 60. And because I got a lot of stress, so I don't remember a lot. So start over again one at a time. I'll start with the media. We sent a press release out today that discussed our position and our frustration with how the county's doing things. So my phone hasn't rang, Tom's phone hasn't rang yet, but we are waiting to hear from any of the above. I think we sent it to like 30 different medias.
We have some bids. We have some bids. We have
And,
some local media.
okay, yeah, let me get to it. We also have a resident who works for KCRA here in Blackstone, Vanessa Walker, you guys know her. But anyway, she's a pulmonologist by trade, and she will be at the meeting on the 28th. She will have about 15 minutes. to discuss air pollution, diesel particulate matter, and how that affects us. But she also has inroads to, obviously, the producers and such at KCRA, and we are working with them, and when it becomes a big enough story, they will be good. What was the other third?
It's a donation on change.org.
Okay,
Petitions.
all right, I'll get to that. Go ahead, what was the rest of your question? The petitions? So petitions as far as, let's talk about change.org first. Change.org is online. There is a bogus petition online that started off by the Thomas family. It went to the Thompson family. I'm not sure what name they got on it now. But basically it started off as an opposition, and then it turned to a pro after it got about 3,000 votes. Ours says, and will never change, say no to Project Frontier. That is what it's been, that's what it will remain. I think we're sitting at about 5,200 online votes right now. And then we have Web Inc., which I'm guessing, I haven't counted them yet, but we're somewhere probably around 1,500 Web Inc., so I think we're getting close to 7,000. When the time comes, we'll do what we need to do with it, but really what it comes down to is letting them know, we want to tell them we've got 10,000 people that are saying no, this is really where we want to be, and if they don't want to listen to us, they'll hear us when the ballots get counted.
We're residents here in Blackstone. We are also family in a school that backs right up to the project. Yes. So I have seen messages going around on the social media conversations. I know emails have been sent to the various schools over there. My question is, where do we stand with that, and how can we as residents / families of the schools support this? Because I know there's conversations being had from parents at morning drop-off, things like that, with staff members, the dean, the head of school, that still are, the sense of urgency just doesn't seem to be there. So how can we support you? How can we get you in touch with the founder of the school, who actually would probably, it's not, you know, there might be a little more sense of urgency.
Yeah. Okay, so I can tell you that I have been over there, and I actually tried to rent their area for this town hall meeting coming up, and they told me they don't use it for that purpose. But what you can do is, you as parents, you as people that have students there, can get to the administration and tell them, hey, you know what, you guys need to sit down with Chuck and Tom for the Chuck and Tom show and make a decision as to whether you guys want to support this project or not. But they need to hear it from us, and they need to take a position.
What's the pace on this? When are they planning to break ground on their development? Like, how much time, like, is this like gonna happen in a couple of months? Do we have a year? Do we have 6 months?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Let me explain that a little bit.
Okay,
Before they can break ground, they have to have a project approval. If the project is approved, they can set their own timeline, but we're gonna intervene at that point. If it's approved and they wanna start construction, we're gonna have a lawsuit against them. So that's what it looks like right now. If that happens, we would probably go to the courts, ask for a stay to prevent them from rebuilding until this is resolved. So it's not going to happen anytime soon, and that's the fight that we're in. So this could go on for. Let me bring the other part up. They could withdraw. They could say, no opposition, we don't want this, we're not going to do that. That would be great. If that doesn't happen, we're in for the long haul. So there's not a direct answer to your question.
But so you know how it's going immediately. The zoning director is going to make her decision where it's going to go. Then, regardless if it comes out the way we don't want it to, we're going to appeal it. It's going to go to the supervisors. They're going to make their decision on it. And if it still doesn't come out the way we want it, then we're going to go to court. So it's going to be a process, period.
Concern I have is, if you look at the traffic studies, it impacts a lot more than Trove Road and the intersection. I mean, those trucks are going to be rolling down, they'll be rolling down back and forth on 50, and I know darn well they don't go up Diesel Avenue.
85% of 1,280 trucks a day.
Right, so my question really is Caltrans involved at all in this?
No, really, no, they're not. It involves the interchange, but this is really county jurisdiction right now. Caltrans doesn't get a vote in approving or disapproving this project. The fact that you're from Empire Ranch is very encouraging, because one thing that people don't really realize is that this is going to affect people going up El Dorado Hills Boulevard, all the way on up to Safeway in that area. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect anybody that uses that interchange. Let me make another point. They can widen every road around here, make it 10 lanes. Every single road around here, you've got one intersection, and that ain't getting any bigger.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll affect that as well.
Thank you for coming, appreciate it, really.
I would just ask you to revisit the timeline response to the question over here, because I understand that we get into the appeal and legal process, this may drag on for a while. But I also understand that there are actions that can be completed and scheduled within the county system and elsewhere that would be on a much shorter time frame. Yes, no?
Well, county actions are...
Let's do it.
Yeah, Sue, you want to answer that?
Well, I think it might have been what I wanted to talk about.
Sue, let us get you a mic. So you can speak.
I think I got the question right, but because I was thinking, and I think your CEQA attorneys will probably counsel you on this, but all of your arguments have to be into the county before they approve the project. And that's the only things that you can challenge them on is what you submitted prior. And that's why everybody should be writing letters now, you know, and that's why they're pushing you to involve yourselves in the planning and the Board of Supervisors meetings in open forum. Every forum, submit some more comments, because they have to, at least that gets it in the system. And the problem somebody mentioned here, we'll have these other agencies looked at it. Because the county's not using the right process for this project, they're not getting those. Normally, in a normal, regular, I've been fighting the county for 20 years, and I've been suing them, I wrote the initiative that actually protects you with the road issues, and it passed, and they're still mad about that. So, I've never seen anything this bad. I mean, they're bad, but I've never seen them blatantly do a project like this and try to put it on a zoning administrator. That is one person that works for staff that has no discretion, and he's going to read the recommendations to approve the project. I can tell you that right now, that's what he's going to do. And that's why everybody needs to call in and say, this has to go to the Planning Commission. This cannot go to I had to take a case that went there, and everybody, even the Board of Supervisors, said that was the lamest meeting we ever had, because it was so corrupted, done wrong. It should have been thrown out and done over. And I'll put that video out if you want to see what I think I put it on your Facebook page, but watch what a zoning administrator meeting looks like. So keep pushing to get this to the Planning Commission, so it gives it more time for people to comment, get more information in there, and demand that the other agencies in the state get to look at this project. Yeah,
that's great, Sue. Let me hammer that point again about getting your comments in, because comments have to be in. If it's scheduled for the zoning administrator, it has to be in at the very latest the Friday before, and generally a lot sooner than that. The reason for this, once all comments are in, once the zoning administrator makes his or her decision on this project, whether it's up or down, that is the file. If we're going to appeal, what we're appealing is not just that decision, we're appealing that along with all the corroborating evidence for or against that project that has been submitted to the Planning Commission or to the Planning Department. So it's important that these comments come in sooner rather than later, because there might be a gem in there that we don't know about, but that will help our cause. The more the merrier, and it adds credence to any appeal that we might have to go through.
You said once we reach the traffic level F, that all development is full stop. So is that commercial development only, or would that include government projects as well, like the high school that they're supposed to build down the road farther?
I don't know. Sue, do you know if we hit level F and development stops, does that also include government projects such as high schools and such?
So they've been ignoring this policy since we adopted it in 2016. The voters voted to implement this. So I like the way Tom actually said it, because that's what I've been trying to say for the entire time after we got it implemented, that once you reach a certain level, you've got there's no more capacity on the roads, they can't approve any more projects. Because it's all about gridlock. But F is the worst condition, stopping, not going. And unfortunately, it used to be, the conditions they required were like in the B levels. Now you're in a community region that's E, so they can't go worse than E here. But F, and you cannot have a project that turns your road into level service F. But they haven't implemented it, so they're just ignoring it. And we have F levels. The reason they're trying to I put another video on your thing, because Heidel was saying, it's okay to develop this development over in Green Valley because the developer is going to give us $1 million to fix the road over here in our hills. That's going to help us to have more development here. So I put a little video clip, and Supervisor Parlin said, you could just say no. But that's what you're dealing with. I don't know if this is, did that help at all? I don't know.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
The traffic impact would affect emergency services to everyone, and so are those organizations as well. Don't they have to approve this? I mean, how can the zoning commission bypass something that would have such a huge impact on emergency services?
Emergency service will just create a plan to mitigate it, so to speak. They'll come up with ways to be able to do that, whether that's lanes or new firehouses or what the case, but no, they will be reactionary and they will come up with a plan to deal with whatever the conditions are.
One example is that they want to build a building 102 or 103 feet high. As Chuck has mentioned in previous meetings, the current fire department does not have a ladder that goes that high. So what do? Well, they just have to go out and spend $10 million to buy a new truck. So that's the way they mitigate, spending more money.
Just touch on, for those of us who did sign up to be volunteers, what we can expect forthcoming so that we have, as was mentioned to me on the phone, clear dialogue about information. So we are all sharing correct and concise information. When we speak to different people, we know different people throughout the county, and as this gentleman said, we need to get this word out to the different districts because it isn't just about Colorado Hills. Thank you.
Yeah, so you will be getting emails from the people up here as far as organizational efforts. And also, if we've got a large group, then we also can have a sit down and talk about what the meeting is with a couple of people or everybody, doesn't matter to me. We can do whatever we need to do to make sure everybody has the same message. But yes, that's very important to us, is to make sure we have the same message. We talk about that continuously to make sure our message is true and that it's consistent.
Don't have time to sit down and write a bunch of letters to all the supervisors and everybody that you referenced. So I sat down and I called. The very first one came from Karen Gardner. And her representative on the phone didn't want to hear anything from me. I said, well, I want to express my opinion, professional opinion, blah, 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 blah. She goes, okay. That was it.
Yeah, so Sue can tell you more about it, but as far as I'm concerned, if you pick the phone up and call, you're wasting your time. Because there's no record of it.
Yeah, the other thing too is, this is impacting three major churches here. You have Hills, you have District, and you have...
Rolling Hills?
No, Rolling Hills is not Hills.
Hills.
Yeah, Hills.
So, okay.
Yeah, so my question is, or my issue is, we should be bringing that up to their people as well, because if they're going to go up White Rock, if the highway gets congested at Orange Road, it's going to impact them too.
They know.
Yeah, they know. I've written 2 letters to Karen Gardner. No comment on either of them. Not even a thank you, but go away comment.
It goes along with what he said. What is even the benefit? Forget the citizens. What's the benefit for El Dorado County if we don't get to keep tax dollars? You know, what is it? Being famous for having an Amazon facility?
No, that would be infamous. So So the advertised rate was $10 to $23 million, so at that, they're seeing the dollar signs and thinking all the different ways they can use that money, but that bubble has burst, so, you know, we're waiting for the phone call that says this thing's getting dropped, but we haven't got it yet.
I'm always interested in numbers, and I'm interested in the 10 to 23 million, or what portion of that we will get. What does that represent as a percentage of what the county now gets as revenue from all sources?
So Marcus said that they looked it up in the budget, it's $864 million for 22-23.
864 million.
That's a lot of money.
And they're letting the plants over.
And they're gonna trash El Dorado Hills for 5.
So instead of needing more money, maybe the idea is to cut your expenses.
Yes.
That's what we all have to do, don't we? Let me just make one comment in response to what you brought out, and it's a bigger issue. I grew up in the 50s. I think I've got some company here in that regard.
Not me.
Well, he's a child, just a 6-year-old child. But when we grew up, we had government that was basically responsible. We had government that basically, you knew that they were pretty much looking out for you. We had trust. The country's gone a different road. It's all over, it's not just here. And so what's happening now, not that any of us want to be in this position right now, but we really need to take this into our own hands. The idea that we have a county or even a state that is looking after our interests is absolutely ludicrous. We don't. So whatever we have, whatever you think you have, we have to protect that up here. We have to stand out. We have to get up. We have to put up our own money. We shouldn't have to. That's a different argument. But the fact is things have changed, and it's requiring us to be active. I moved up here 7 years ago, I guess, and my thoughts were just to have fun, to hike, work on my car, read, that kind of a thing. This is not what I wanted to do. It's not what Chuck or Steve or any of us.
I wanted to do it. You raise your hand.
That's a fact.
So it looked like basically 100% of the trucks will be going back to 50. My question is, why here? It's so random. Why wouldn't they want to be closer to the freeway? Has anybody answered that question, or?
No. That question has been asked so many times, and we have no idea. The only thing we can say is we know they went out and sought them, that they knew this piece of property was here. It's close as you can get to Sacramento in El Dorado Hills, and the Highway 50 corridor being built to someday that might give them a director line to Mather. Go ahead, Sue.
Well, they were trying to get into Rancho Cordova, and Rancho Cordova denied them.
So she said they were trying to get into Rancho Cordova, and Rancho Cordova denied them, which they have. They've successfully fended them off.
About the town center, who owns the town center now, and then you can talk to them or the Association of Realtors, because they're going to be upset. So
Kevin Nagel owns it. He also owns part of the Kings, the Sac Republic, very successful man. And yes, we have talked to him, and not going any farther than that.